Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. It is Thursday, so we are talking Turner syndrome. Before we get started, I wanted to look at some of the comments from last week's video and see what some of you guys said. Monique said, "Interesting, I was the opposite. Was fine with math. I took statistics to a university level, calculus to final year of high school, but really struggled with English. Grammar and spelling just don't come easy for me. Found essays for history and English really tough." So I loved this comment specifically because it shows the diversity with nonverbal learning disorder and the different ways it can actually affect you. The core concept of nonverbal learning disorder, which I think is the basis for math struggles for girls with Turner syndrome, is the struggle with obscure, less concrete concepts. So it's the ones where you have to kind of imagine it a little more and it's not as concrete what it is. It's a little more looser of a concept and it's not tangible. So it's a very broad spectrum with that definition, but I think having trouble with English could be applied to that same thing. So it's just interesting to see the different variations of being affected by it. ECD Project said, "Great tips. I struggled in school too. I was diagnosed in 1982 and there was not a lot of information about how to assist with areas such as math, focus, memory, organizing ideas, etc. I worked hard at English skills. I love writing now. As an educator, it is important to guide students to find strategies of learning that works for them. It takes a lot of effort and discipline." You are totally right, and I could not imagine having a really big struggle with that, even back in 1982. You're right, where they didn't know as much about it. They really, I think, chalked it up to you just weren't focusing or didn't want to do it, rather than it was actually a struggle. And they didn't know what it was really. They didn't know how to help it. They didn't understand it enough to really do anything with it or for it. And I could see that being an interesting dynamic. And it's interesting to see the difference in times where now it's like all over the place, opportunities for help with stuff like that, and everybody seems to be finding out they have some kind of struggle that way. So that was an interesting part of your comment to me. Thank you for sharing. And I totally agree. It's all about keeping at it, keeping a positive attitude, and really buckling down and finding what works for you. And like I said in the video, exploiting it. This week I have a super interesting topic. I recently got asked what my thoughts were for the Law and Order SVU episode that has a girl with Turner syndrome in it. It's called Clock. I think it aired in 2006, and the gist of the episode is there's this girl. She's a senior in high school. I can't remember her name. And she is 17 and she has Turner syndrome. And so of course she does not look 17. She looks much younger. And she goes missing. They end up finding out that she ran away with a boyfriend that her parents did not approve of. The whole episode is kind of about their relationship being controversial because she's 17, he's 18 I think, but she looks a lot younger than she is. And it's an interesting storyline. So I was asked my thoughts on it and how I felt like they represented Turner syndrome through her. And I thought that would be a perfect topic for a video. I thought it could lead to some great discussion on the ways that the media portray genetic disorders like Turner syndrome and how that episode may or may not have helped that. For this whole idea of the episode of SVU with a girl with Turner syndrome, I have a lot of thoughts. I have watched it and I think revisited it a couple times. At first I was really excited because I love Law and Order SVU, and I was super excited at the idea of a girl with Turner syndrome being on there. And I remember my parents ended up watching the episode before I did, and they didn't even know it was going to come up, and then they were just watching an episode, and it happened to be that one, and they came and told me, said, oh, hey, there's an episode with a girl with Turner syndrome in it, and we kind of critiqued it the whole rest of the way. And part of that is Hollywood. A lot of the things that I want to poke at in it are Hollywood stuff and not doing enough research to fully understand what you're portraying. So, one of my biggest bones to pick with the way they portrayed it was, yes, she was short, but she had literally no other traits. Like, they didn't actually get a girl with Turner syndrome, and that's fine. I mean, they're not going to always have that choice, and there are plenty of actors that play a character with a disability or a genetic disorder that they don't actually have. Like, that happens. That's totally fine. But I feel like they also could have done a little bit more to have her look more the part, because she had nothing to show physically other than being on the shorter side. I think they could have done little things. I don't think they needed to do like super dramatic every physical trait of Turner syndrome that ever was thought possible, but just a little touches to make it a little bit more believable and maybe a little clearer that there was something different, because they had her being bullied for it. And I didn't understand what the kids were actually bullying her for, because she was short. She wasn't that short. Like, I didn't feel like she looked as much like a little girl as they were claiming. And that was a whole other issue. But I felt like they could have tried a little harder for it to look more real. And I think especially with the traits they actually had her showing, the parents' reaction to it and all of the adults around her's reaction to it was super over dramatic to me for what they were actually showing her as having, because she didn't really have that many traits. But, you know, as far as how they kind of spread awareness and got the word out, tried to portray it, I don't think they did an accurate enough job to make it good awareness. Like, yeah, awareness, good, great. Probably more people now at least know the term Turner syndrome than did before they did that episode. But they don't necessarily know it in the right way, and they probably didn't walk away understanding an accurate idea of what it was. And that part made me very, very sad, because I was really excited about that. To actually have a show I loved talking about something that I thought nobody talked about. And I just didn't feel like they even represented it correctly. So there was that aspect to it that I was very conflicted with. Yes, they're talking about it, but they aren't talking about it in the right way, and that does matter. Like, I don't feel like this is a case for any publicity is good publicity. That kind of just grated on me, because that's getting bad information out there. So my biggest bone to pick with the episode out of everything was the way they harped on her looking like a little girl. And they all treated her like a little girl. Like, there was literally not one adult, I don't think, that actually acknowledged in the state of New York she was a legal adult. That she was not a little girl, no matter how short and petite and small she was. And I didn't like that. That felt icky to me. And the way they stressed that her boyfriend being interested in her was wrong in some way because of her being small, and because of, in their terms, her looking like a little girl, somehow making him a pedophile, that was super insulting to me. Because they're generalizing based off of physical traits that not even everybody has to the same degree. And they're disrespecting the fact that she was a legal adult. She was an adult. She was not a child. She was not a little girl. It's not like she was 9 years old. So I just, that was my biggest problem I had with it, and that's where they really lost me and I started getting upset, was how much they talked about her being a little girl and looking like a little girl, and then insinuating over and over again that her boyfriend being attracted to her was next to pedophilia because of her being small and looking like a little girl. Like, it was bad. And I really didn't like or appreciate that. I know a lot of people have been discussing this more. I've seen a lot of different discussions about this episode recently, and I don't know how to wrap my head around this fully. I didn't like it. There were a lot of things I would have changed, but part of me couldn't get over the fact that they were actually talking about what I had. And that created this huge internal conflict where I was super excited about that. And there was some form of validation that came out of them talking about that. For me, not having anybody else in my life that really had it or understood it or knew anything about it before they met me, it broke that barrier almost. It broke that wall between me and the real world to actually have a major network TV show talking about Turner syndrome and trying to represent it. And it was just so conflicting. I can't even describe the millions of different good and bad emotions that were coming out as I was watching it. And I think I tried to watch it a second time later, like as I've gotten older, and I couldn't. I don't think I made it through the whole episode the second time because I was just so frustrated about a third, maybe not even a third of the way through. I was just so frustrated that there was one point, I think Stabler made another comment about her boyfriend being a pedophile. I think me and Andrew were together at that point, and I was just like, okay, I'm done. I can't deal with this anymore. I don't even know how to sum up how I felt, but hopefully that somewhat describes it. I don't even know what to do with this episode, you guys. Let me know what you think. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Was there any saving factors in it for you at all? Leave me a comment and let me know. And let's have a discussion about how genetic disorders, and specifically how this represented Turner syndrome in the media, and what can be done to fix that, and what could have been done better to make it a better, more informative episode and actually have it better represent us as women with Turner syndrome. Because I feel like that could be good to know for the future. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it helped you in some way. I hope you got something from it. If you did, give it a thumbs up and share it with everybody. And if you were not already subscribed to my channel, click the screen and subscribe. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye!